Welcome to Fiscal Integrity Group, your ticket to bookkeeping greatness.
Hi, I'm Herb Holst. Business owners of today are a very different breed than many of the business owners of the past. As bookkeepers, it's worth having a look at these differences to better understand the mindset of the business owner and how you can best serve him or her. Welcome to today's business owner versus years past. There is a difference. When I talk about the timeline breakdown for this topic, I'm talking or looking at businesses and business owners over the last 3 decades or so, as opposed to business owners that went into business prior to that. Be aware that I'm talking in generalities as we've observed them, and that there are business owners past and present that don't fit nicely into this discussion here. You can pick and choose as to where they fit best as far as your experience goes. I'm definitely talking about trends that we've observed as being prevalent in this day and age, more so than we've observed in the past. In the past, again prior to the last 3 decades, people looking to go on into business did so on purpose. They deliberately positioned themselves to be ready for startup and had a very determined focus on how they would go about it. It was very much a planned undertaking. As often as not, they concentrated at least part of their education on the facets of business ownership and what was needed to pull it off. They had a clear understanding of the structure of business and the administration required to keep it all on the rails. Many times they were groomed to take over a family business and were not allowed to do so until they were ready and deemed to be ready. In many cases they understood the financial end of things and what was necessary for the bookkeepers to record all of the transaction and pull the books together so that statements could be processed and generated. They could then read the statements and understand them, which is a key point as well, and use the information to manage and grow the business. All in all, the experience was very deliberate and very focused. Now, many new business owners today, again in the past 3 decades, have not had the time or the luxury of this focused approach of the past. Oftentimes they were thrust into business as a last resort when their career got derailed due to things like layoffs or downsizing or just downright closure of the business that had kept them employed going forward up to this point. Now, for many older people, the difficulty in finding that replacement job kind of made up their minds for them. Going into business was one of the few viable alternatives. So here they are, the new business owners of today, in business and in need of assistance and guidance, even if they're not aware of it or even acknowledge that and agree that they need it in the first place. Starting a business in this day and age is easy. Now, by this I mean that the mechanics of registering and setting up the business and making it alive is not that terribly difficult. The rest of it can be a whole lot more difficult depending on the kind of business that's being set up and the mindset of the owners. Keeping the business alive and making it successful is certainly a different story. Virtually everyone can register a proprietorship or even start up a corporation with very little investment of time or money. Carrying it forward and making it successful requires a much larger investment of both. Consider that in many cases, owners of today have a specific skill set that lends itself to being in business. It's the product or service they can provide that will hopefully make them money and allow for growth of the business and success of the business. Not only do they often not have the additional skills to operate as a business, but in many cases they either ignore or don't feel the need to pay attention to this side of things whatsoever. Managing the money is often a very weak point, and this is where you come in. If the new business owner does anything right, especially in the early going, it'll be to surround him or herself with competent people that will assist them with the things that they can't or aren't able to do themselves. My bias may be showing a little bit here, but one of the things I'm sure should be number 1 on the list is assistance with the books, the bookkeeping, and the financing. If this goes off the rails, catastrophe could result and the owner may not even be aware that this is coming. We've seen on many occasions where the books are either neglected or non-existent, to the point actually where the company is either in trouble with creditors or with various taxation agencies. We've done a lot of good and very lucrative business on doing catch-ups and cleanups, usually once the company's in trouble to begin with. A good bookkeeper at the top of their game should never allow this to happen to the company or companies in their charge. It's no accident that many small businesses will fail, especially in the first 5 years. Even large and well-established companies are not immune to this, but more often than not, it's the early ones, the very, very new ones that see this problem. Look around to see how this applies in your particular area. Now, many factors will determine the success or failure of a business, and one of them is the mindset and proactive nature of the business owner. This will play a large part in this. For your part, understanding the nature of the business and how the owner relates to it will go a long way to making your life easier. Understanding the owner and the skill set that he or she brings to the table will help with this as well. In allowing you to apply your expertise to assisting them, they could in turn make their own life easier. Hopefully you are working with a business owner who likes to work in collaboration with his or her staff or contractors rather than a dictator who expects to be listened to with little or no opportunity for feedback. If you were stuck with a dictator, your ability to help is certainly limited. They may be their own worst enemy and at the mercy of their own short-sightedness. Any owner worth his or her salt would accept input, advice, and coaching from you on what you need to do to do your job and to help keep them safe. If you're going to watch their backs, they need to give you the latitude to do so. Now, one of the best things you can do is carefully monitor the cash flow, especially in the early going when cash is tight, and it's very vital that it be kept in focus at all times. Report on the state of the money to the owner as frequently as necessary to fill them in and allow them to prevent and react properly to potential catastrophe. Another thing you can do is to provide them with reports on a constant and regular basis so that they can see the big picture. Even if they're not initially receptive to this information, having it in front of them will eventually compel them to look at it. It's like sitting around a campfire. Eventually you find yourself looking at the campfire whether you want to or not. It's almost hypnotic. Be prepared to explain the numbers and answer any questions that the owner may have in this regard. And as often as not, all you need to do is drill down in the books from the report to find out what the original entries were to be able to answer their questions and give them explanations as to why the numbers are what they are. Determining whether the business owner or owner falls into the model of the past or the model of today, as I've expressed it, will guide you in how to interact with them and how much coaching they can use and will accept from you. Best of luck in all this. I'm Herb Holst. We'll see you next time.
Fiscal Integrity Group, your home for the advancement of bookkeeping and bookkeepers.